Hi. I tried filming this video yesterday and I don't know, it just didn't really come out the way I wanted it to. And also, I was in a bit of a hurry because I have to film these like in secret after I get home and like in the little window between when my roommate's gonna come and when I get home. I don't ever know like how long she's gonna take. This is a tangent, but I don't know how to do this YouTube thing because like it seems like to kind of succeed on this platform I need to like be a production house or at least like put a lot of hours into making content. To make the algorithm happy, I like would have to play all these games that are really time consuming and it's just not possible. So I don't know, like I'm just gonna try this out. Make YouTube people again. Today I wanted to talk about how I literally watched like so many men over the last few years and like a lot of men that are close to me like slowly fall into the alt-right pipeline. And it's like I can almost assume at this point that most men that I'm going to meet are going to do some like iteration of like right wing propaganda. These are men like that I know to be intelligent, right? Like a lot of these people, like my dad and like some of my friends, like I know that these people are smart people. So this is not an intelligence question. So then it like really got me thinking, like, okay, so how is it that all these men, like regardless of intellect, so to speak, are like getting so radicalized? Well, obviously there's the algorithm, right? But like what is the algorithm exploiting? And like how is it doing it so well that these people are like not noticing it? You know, like it's such an insane blind spot to have. So like what is that? Like what about their thought process makes them susceptible to that? And ultimately what I wanted to talk about is not just the reasons like demographic wise people are susceptible to propaganda, but also the general way in which they approach the world and think about like logic and morality and their relationship with themselves and like how these kind of things interplay to like almost make a breeding ground for getting like indoctrinated, I guess. Yeah, and obviously all the like general disclaimers, right? Like not everybody and women also. And this is just me introducing like what made me start thinking about this. Okay, so these are character traits, I don't know, that seem to be consistent across the people that kind of going down the drain. So the first one is like an immunity complex. I feel like this is a cultural thing. Like even the demographic that I motherfucker. The demographic that I grew up in, like a lot of the men in my life really have to struggle very little to do most things. And so I feel like when they, talk about larger problems in the world, they have like a very limited perspective on what it actually looks like for those larger systems on an individual level. And so when they say shit like, oh, we should like just get rid of abortion, or like just we should like just remove all the Muslims from the country, for them it's just a figure. They cannot conceptualize that happening to them, and so that creates this weird disconnect from other people, almost kind of feeling like nothing can affect them, I guess. The next thing is that all of these people tend to have idols. Now, I have never had idols. I think this is one of those things that comes from religion, or I don't know, it's just like a general cultural thing, right? Like to have people that you look up to, and like want to be like. They seem to really like having somebody lead them. It's so much easier if somebody else tells you what to do, right? Like if it seems like somebody already has all the answers, then you don't have to grapple with the difficult questions, I guess. Like they must have had it figured out. And like it's like a god thing. At least that's what I think it comes from. And you can see this with all of them. Like the younger generation is like Andrew Tate. In India, it's a certain person, and abroad it's Trump. Needing to look up to somebody is not a thing that I literally relate to at all, and I don't understand why people do it. Like I cannot imagine like pedestalizing somebody to literally tell me every single thing about the way that I should live my life and the way that the entire world should be. Like that sounds seems utterly bizarre to me. Another thing I've realized is like a heavy resistance to individuality and customization. This is a little bit of a tricky one. It like relates to a few of the other points, so I'll just try and be as clear as possible. I know this video is not going to be that clear, and I'm sorry, like this is the first time that I actually ever have to explain these things to somebody that's outside my brain. So I hope you know what I'm talking about. They really don't like complexity. The way that they approach the world is to like to organize things and then label them and then keep it that way, right? For them to be able to be comfortable with their understanding of the world. I don't know how else to put it. I'm sorry. This is like such a bad way to say it. They don't really like anybody doing anything outside the norm. And if it was up to them, they would love complete homogeneity in the entire population. Women should behave exactly like this. No woman should, ever do anything different. Men should behave in exactly this way and should wear exactly these clothes and talk in exactly this way and all this kind of stuff, right? Like for them, grappling with everybody being different is a lot more information to take in than if you can just say, okay, a woman is somebody who does this and then that's it. The next thing I want to talk about was categories. This is like a thing that I've noticed like people in general seem to have. And I always have thought of categories as just like a useful tool for organization within a specific context. If I have some goal that I need to achieve and therefore I am going to categorize the subjects of my goals into groups that make sense so that I can understand the relationship between these groups and like generally how they operate. But then obviously that's not the only context within which the subjects can be viewed. A category is not a permanent place where you put a subject, right? Like if you categorize books into genres, you could also then categorize them by letter or like some other way. Like the way in which information is organized is a dynamic activity. It's not like you just put books in the genre shelf and then leave them there eternally, and then everything else that we try to understand about book has to be within the context of it being in the category of crime or whatever. When you talk about gender, you have the categories of man and woman, and like at some point, maybe even still, it's useful to characterize people into man and women given you have the specific goal of like, I don't know, hypothetically, like understanding biological characteristics or, understanding some social dynamic within which these two categories are relevant, right? But you can get rid of that category and just try and organize people a whole different way. But it seems like at some point we sorted people into man and woman. This became like, instead of an organizational tool to achieve a particular goal, it became a defining characteristic. And only within that context can you now even study people within the category of women. So again, I'm not talking about like the real world, right? Like obviously now, we're kind of in too deep. You do have to like, because of different like confounding factors and all that kind of stuff, but I've like gone in circles about this for so long. I really hope that my point came across. I completely understand if it did not. Anyway, mostly no one's gonna watch this so it's okay. I'm like really trying to practice articulating my thoughts better, and I don't know if I'm really doing that well. Anyway, next point, they also tend to have low empathy, and like a few of these points are just going to be like disconnection from the self. Like I think that they have a hard time understanding themselves even, which again leads to a lot of blind spots, right? But they also then struggle with empathizing with other people. They also have a static view of morality, and again, this is something I just simply don't understand. At some point as a society we decided that there is a rule book about what should be done, and then we decided that that rule book would never change, and I never understood that. Like, why is updating the rule book such a rare thing? Why are we not constantly updating the rule book given new information? If you say stealing is bad, like why can't it be situational whether stealing is bad? Why does it have to be the blanket statement of stealing is always bad? They really struggle with like, the again, this comes back to like the customization. They don't like to take concepts and then have to manipulate them all the time. It's just a lot easier if everything is standardized, and it's just easy to know exactly what to do. Like you don't have to think about it at all. They also tend to have static worldviews. Generally, I feel like people, as they learn new information, they update the way that they think about the world. But it seems like these people, in light of new information, like don't, and like it has to be like this really big event for them to like change how they feel about something. Like if I say, I don't know, don't ban abortions, and they think that abortion is wrong, I can make like a totally valid point. Like they might even agree with me, but then just not change their stance on it. And then something really like tragic has to happen for them to be like, oh, okay, maybe I should change my mind about this. The next thing is like a static idea of the self. It's the same thing with like customization and like, I don't know, like dynamicity, dynamicity. They also tend to have some internalized shame going on. Like they feel like, again, like characteristics of themselves are like inherent to them and not something that is subject to change. And like I think they project that onto other people as well. My beliefs and identity and like whatever I think of myself right now is X, and it will always be the case that I will be X. and they don't think of the self as something that is updated. They think of the self as something that is inherent. The last is that they tend to like really like the sound of logical things but don't actually like logical things. They like feeling like they've done facts and logic, but the point of doing facts and logic is not achieving facts and logic. It is ultimately to like come to terms with like the discomfort that comes from like not having facts and like feeling like you don't know about the world. And I think that that's the saddest part, is like also these people tend to be really curious, like have an insatiable need to understand. And so I think in the haste to understand, they need to simplify everything, because like the feeling of not understanding is really uncomfortable. That comes with a lot of cognitive dissonance and like poor application of logic and like that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's it. My memory is like literally almost done. I hope that I articulated myself in a way that is at least slightly reasonable. I hope you enjoyed this video, if you watched it, if you made it here. And please like and please subscribe and please leave a comment about what you think. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.